Sixth grade, welcome to Chapter 5 in Science. We're going to start talking about plants. We got done last chapter when we talked about the human body. Um, as you think about careers, this awesome lady works for NASA. She's a pharmacologist. That's a scientist who studies and develops new drugs that help people and animals. Um, they're medical researchers. They're concerned with everything, and they use scientific methods to find ways to prevent and cure diseases, okay? So they'll test these new drugs. Sometimes we like to use the word medicines, guys. Drugs usually has a negative connotation on it, but it's kind of interesting. So you have a person, this is the word pharmacy, where you get your medicines from, and this would be, ologist would be the study of it. So it's kind of interesting, guys, as far as her work of looking at different plants and animals and things like that to see if they can come up with different cures that'll help us. I was just reading an article as they work on the vaccine for COVID that one of the places they're getting the oils from is from the liver of a shark. And so they're now concerned on if we start to develop massive amounts of vaccines, will we have to kill too many sharks to be able to develop those vaccines? So it's always interesting, guys, as we work with medicines, where those medicines come from. Everything needs to come from nature somewhere. And who would have thought that oils from the shark's liver would be a thing? But she probably knows that, right? Okay, career someday. Okay, we're cruising along. We're talking about plants, guys. A couple of different pictures that we will study as we work our way through the different lessons of the things we're talking about. Okay, if you would like to kill a plant in your house, you could do this experiment. It says, how does a plant get gases it needs? Gases a plant needs enters through its leaves. In this activity, you will try to discover if the gases enter through the top side of the leaf or the bottom side or both. So what you're supposed to do is coat the top side of 2 leaves with petroleum jelly, Vaseline, coat the bottom side of 2 other leaves, and handle those leaves gently so you don't break the leaves. Then place the plant in the sunny window and observe it for a whole week. And you will see if the air goes through the top and we put Vaseline on it, guys, that'll cut the air off. It'll kill the leaf. It goes through the bottom, and the ones that go through the bottom should die. If they both die, then we'd say it doesn't matter if it's top or bottom, it dies. And if none of them die, then we're going to say, even though I cut off the bottom, the top still pulls in enough air to do that. Now, I never do that experiment, guys, because I have a hard enough time growing plants. I'm definitely not going to put Vaseline on them with a chance to kill those things off. So please don't be doing that science experiment without permission of a plant and permission of a parent, but kind of interesting to see on a way to see if I coat a leaf, what would happen to that leaf? Will it die or not? And can a plant live through that experience? So feel free to run your own science experiment this week and tell me how it goes. Today we're just going to take on the skill, guys. It's comparing and contrasting. It says, knowing how things or events are alike and different will help you understand the science you read. Number 1 in your notes. When you compare 2 items, you tell how they're alike. Number 2, when you contrast them, you tell how they're different. Number 3, use the observations described in the science journal below to compare and contrast the leaves. I gave you an extra credit opportunity. Guys, this is not the first time we have learned how to compare and contrast. So you go here and you say, write the other chapter number. So did we learn in Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, or Chapter 4 how to compare or contrast? You go back and try to find that answer to that if you have it, or it wouldn't take you too long to look at the beginning of each chapter in your science book to get your extra credit where we already studied that. Okay, we're looking for ways to compare and contrast. I see pretty colors there. I write my pretty colors down. The easy way to do it with a Venn diagram, how are they different? A is different than B. I write the differences on the outside. How they're both the same goes in the middle of those things. Your book does a nice job when they give it to you in colors. So I look at 2 different kinds of leaves. Both were green. I write down green. They had many veins. I write down many veins running throughout. Now you notice how they're not writing complete sentences, guys. They're giving you the 1 word or 2 words or little phrase you'd put in there. Leaf A was oval, jagged points around it, with jagged points around its edge. Leaf B, long, narrow, smooth around the edge. The surface of both leaves was smooth, so I'd write down the word smooth, green, many veins, right? So guys, little phrases that tell how they're alike or how they're different. Okay, your job for tomorrow is to go over here and talk about tree seeds. Now obviously there's no blue and orange here. Number 2, we didn't use too many of those words like both alike in this sentence. So the paragraph says this: I found and observed 2 different trees. Okay, now guys, one of the things you could do for a comparison, just like over here, they could have put this in orange. How are they alike? They're both leaves. Okay, how are they alike? They're both trees. Okay, one's an apple tree, one's a pine tree. How are they different? One's an apple tree, one's a pine tree. In the spring, the apple tree began to grow flowers. Later in the year, there were apples on the tree where the flowers were. Apple tree seeds are found in the middle of apples. So that's all information about an apple tree. Now we're back to information about a pine tree. The pine tree had pine cones and had them all year. I noticed that some of the pine cones looked very tightly closed. However, some of the pine cones looked open and the seeds had fallen to the ground. Pine tree seeds are found inside pine cones. So guys, they gave you a list of things that were true of the pine tree. They gave you a list of the things that were true of the apple tree. Apple tree, pine tree, and then the challenge, I think, is how are they alike? Now I gave you one, they're both trees. I might look at my title and get number 2, how they're alike. I might also get number 3, which would be, in my mind, this word. Okay, so this one is, you could say, are found inside of apples. This one is inside of pine cones. So I might say they're both trees. They're both produce seeds, and both the seeds are inside something. Now I know one's inside an apple and one's inside a pine cone, but the trees are still inside. They're not growing their seeds outside of it. Okay, so few points here for how they're different, few points here for how they're different, and we already listed a couple points on how they're the same. So make sure your Venn diagram is filled in. Have a day.